Growing for Market podcast.
Instead of carrots that you have to replant every year, consider growing skirret. It's in the same family. It's a really tasty root vegetable that kind of tastes like carrot. You can eat it raw or cooked, but it kind of also tastes like parsnip and potatoes and comes back year after year. You can just leave it in the ground and it just gets bigger and bigger and grows more and more tasty roots.
Hello, and welcome to the Growing for Market podcast, where we talk about growing, marketing, and the business of growing vegetables and flowers for local markets like farmers markets, CSAs, farm stands, and local wholesaling. I'm April Parms Jones, your host and a writer for Growing for Market magazine. For 33 years, the magazine for flower and vegetable market farmers. If you're enjoying the podcast, just wait until you see the magazine. Go to growingformarket.com for more. Also, if you could give us a follow and a rating, it really helps other like-minded people to find the podcast. And now, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. It's with their generous support that we can bring you the podcast for free.
Farmers who partnered with Farmhand grew an average of 63% this year because it's more than software. Farmhand acts as your business coach and assistant, helping you sell out, save time, and grow smarter. From marketing to fulfillment to customer support, Farmhand pulls real data from what's worked and what hasn't for other farms and turns it into websites that convert, campaigns that sell, and fulfillment systems that give you your time back. Curious what that looks like? Meet the founder, Ari, at farmhand.partners/GFM and see the same insights and support the fastest growing farms rely on every week. That's farmhand.partners/GFM. Whether it's tomatoes to market, flowers in the spring, or vegetables for your family, growing in a greenhouse protected from the weather provides the right environment for a harvest you can count on. Rimmel greenhouses are strong, durable, and easy to assemble, offering the quality that you need to grow productively year-round. Rimmel greenhouses are proudly built right here in America and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. With technical sales staff members located across the country, many with growing experience, the Rimmel Greenhouses team of experts will serve as your trusted partner every step of the way to ensure that you get exceptional value from your greenhouse investment. Visit Rimmel.com to get a quote today.
I'm April Parms Jones, and today I have the pleasure of having Michalina from Cicada Seeds, all the way from beautiful Canada. Michalina has a love of seeds and farming that was sparked by growing up around her mom's permaculture homestead and small seed company. She holds a Bachelor's of Arts and Science degree from Quest University, focused on environmental education and ecology, and she's worked for climate action and farming nonprofits, managing communication, organizing events, and supporting farmers. She started Cicada Seeds in 2021 to make perennial vegetables more widely available for gardeners and farmers. Michalina is passionate about promoting these varieties because of their benefits to the soil, to the health of the farm, to ecology, and their delicious flavors. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, April. I'm excited to chat.
I have been so excited about this podcast for a very long time because I'm an avid gardener and I was thinking about planning my garden for 2026, and I thought I want to do things easier. I want to make my life happier, more content, and not have to spend so much effort and energy gardening, farming year after year. And I thought perennial seeds, maybe that's something I can think about and explore. And now I have opportunity to talk to you all about perennial seeds. So can you tell us about the journey?
Yeah, so as you mentioned in my bio, my mom really got me into the whole gardening, farming, permaculture world. And I kind of drifted away from that when I was in university, but A bunch of my friends were into farming then, so I was like, okay, I'll check this out. And I just went deep down the rabbit hole and was reading all these blogs and books about permaculture mostly. And they were mentioning these really interesting varieties that I really wanted to get my hands on, different types of perennial vegetables. And I found it so hard to track these varieties down. And so I'm based in Canada, and it may have been a little bit easier in other parts of the world, but had a really hard time finding them. So I eventually just started, sending emails to people all over the world asking to trade seeds, or like, oh, would you please send me a few seeds of this really cool variety? And plant people are so generous. And so I started swapping and buying a few things from small seed companies and trialing them. And I was just totally hooked. They just make so much sense for the time savings, and well, they're delicious, and ecology. I just love how they are less work, can store more carbon in the soil. It was kind of a no-brainer for me. So yeah, that's just really escalated, and I add more varieties to my catalog every year as I'm trialing them. And I don't see myself stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, it's amazing. You're doing amazing work. And I feel like at this moment in time, you're perfectly placed because more people are interested in being more self-sufficient, self-sustaining. And then also with the perennial part, like you said, it's better for the soil, like in your bio, it's better for the earth, it's better for the farmer. And it's, like you said, very time sensitive in the sense of you use less time.
Yeah, absolutely. The first year when you're establishing can definitely be more work. A lot of the seeds can be a little bit trickier to start. So perennial vegetables in general, they haven't undergone the same breeding efforts over time that like carrots or broccoli have. So sometimes the seeds need a period of moist cold stratification, or sometimes they're just really slow to germinate. I have lots of tips on my website about how to overcome those hurdles. But so the first year, starting all the seeds or establishing your perennial garden can be a bit of work. But after that, the time really pays off because the plants are just coming back year after year, and you just basically get to harvest, do a little bit of maintenance, pruning, dividing, but it's awesome. Like if something comes up in your life, like you have a baby or you have to take care of a family member or something, you can basically just walk away from your garden for months or probably even a year or more. And when you return, there'll still be food to harvest, which I think is pretty awesome.
I mean, that's outstanding. So this year, I've just started the process of cold stratification with my seeds. And about 2 years ago, I did poppies, and it was the next year it didn't come up. And then I did it again, and then they did come up. So can you tell us a little bit, just like a couple quick tips about cold stratification? Because I feel like a lot of people feel anxiety about it, or it's sort of unknown.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two main ways to do it. If you live in a cold enough climate, you can just do it outside and let nature do the cold stratification for you, which is the easiest, in my opinion, my preferred method. So basically, you would just sow your seeds, either direct sow them into the garden, or I like to plant in small pots, just like 4-inch pots, so I can keep an eye on things. But I sow a lot of things in like January or February, and we're still getting below freezing. Like we might get quite a bit below freezing, but the plants can handle it. And just leave it outside. You can put it like a covered area is best so that if you get heavy rains or something, it's not like splashing the seeds out of the pot. So you can use an unheated tunnel or like maybe an overhang on your porch, or a lot of folks are really into the milk jug method. So get a big milk jug or any kind of plastic container and sow your seeds in there, and it gives them a bit of protection. So that's my preferred method. And then the seeds, once it starts warming up, the seeds will just sprout when it's the right time. You do need to pay attention to the length of cold stratification the species requires. So some are pretty short, like spinach vine, Hablitzia tamnoides is a leafy perennial climbing green that I sell. And it's really short cold stratification. It only needs like 2 to 4 weeks. But some things like sea kale, I found take like at least 3 months. So you probably want to plant that in the fall. And then the other method of cold stratification is in the fridge. And you can sow in pots just the same way, put a whole pot in a Ziploc baggie and just leave it in your fridge for the required number of weeks. Or you can also fold up your seeds in moist paper towel, put those in a Ziploc baggie, put them in the fridge. And then you'll want to monitor for signs of mold if you're using paper towel. And you might need to swap out the paper towel or remove really moldy seeds. But you kind of want to check on your seeds in the fridge every week or every few weeks just to make sure they're doing okay and to remove any seeds that are sprouting and plant them.
So when you're doing the cold stratification, the plant automatically knows when to sprout. Because my concern is, in my mind, is that, oh, if I plant it outside, how does it know? What if it sprouts and then it gets cold again and then that kills the sprout? That's my question. Does that happen, or is that not? It's more, the plant has more knowledge than that.
That's a good question. I think both things can happen. I mean, with climate change, like we get such freak weather events, it's definitely possible that the seeds, like innate wisdom, is not as helpful now with our freak weather. But in general, the seeds that do require cold stratification, like they're more resilient to frosts. So if they sprout and it gets pretty cold, they're going to be okay. And often there will kind of be staggered germination. So like a few seeds maybe will pop up. And if those get frosted and die, there's some that are waiting longer to pop up. So yeah, it really depends on the species, and with our weird weather, you never know. But in general, they're pretty resilient.
Yes. I love that. That's what I do really love about perennials, is that they're more robust and resilient, and they're also sturdy and really, really delicious, which we'll get into a little later. I'm personally a fan of your business, and I am on Instagram, and I do follow you on Instagram. And so I repost sometimes some of your posts. So you had a really amazing one talking about the two different varieties like of spinach. Right. And then one you just appears once a year. And then the perennial appears every single year. And then I saw one of my friends, she's also a grower in Akron, Ohio, and she reposted it. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that's such a good information. And she just did the spinach one. So could you go through that post, if you don't mind, talking about the two different varieties? Because I felt like it was very insightful. And the visual was great. The visual was so great.
Oh, yay. I'm glad it resonated. It was fun to put together. So I've been playing around with this idea, and honestly, it's kind of inflammatory, but I think it's kind of fun just to get people thinking. And it's kind of around the concept of grow this, not that. So I'm suggesting different perennial alternatives to annual or biennial veggies we know and love. So for example, like instead of carrots that you have to replant every year, consider growing skirret. It's in the same family. It's a really tasty root vegetable that kind of tastes like carrot. You can eat it raw or cooked, but it kind of also tastes like parsnip and potatoes, and comes back year after year. You can just leave it in the ground and it just gets bigger and bigger and grows more and more tasty roots.
Now for skirret, I feel like that's like a middle-aged vegetable.
Yeah, it's like was really popular in medieval times, apparently. Yeah. It's so interesting. But probably before, I'm guessing, I should look this up, but I think probably before potatoes made it to Europe from South America. So anyway, root veggies are delicious no matter where you live, but skirret was very popular in the medieval times.
So it's time for a comeback.
I think so. I think it's very well deserved. It's one of my favorite perennial vegetables. It's just like so sweet and tasty. And I don't usually eat them raw. I usually just roast them, but I just dig up the whole plant, snip off the biggest roots, and then give them a strong blast with a hose to clean them off. And then sometimes I give them a little extra scrub in the kitchen if there's some dirty spots, but they're usually pretty clean. And then I just roast them in the oven with some oil and salt. And they're like pre-cut fries, basically. You don't need to do much chopping. And they're just so tasty, just like parsnippy, soft potato flavor. I just love them.
Now, what size are they? Are they like a small carrot, or?
They're usually thinner than carrots. So I would say maybe like max 12 inches, 6 to 12 inches. And I think it definitely depends on your soil type too, like how deep they're able to grow down. But even in my home garden, I have like pretty heavy clay in the lower layers, and the skirret will sometimes even grow down into that. And I can't always dig it up because it's hard to dig down that far. But yeah, and then I grew some skirret at my lease plot down the road, and I dug up one root. It was like 2 feet long. It was crazy. So I think in really nice, fluffy soils, they could grow pretty big.
Oh man, that'd be amazing.
And now let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. It's with their generous support that we can bring you the podcast for free.
Today's episode of the Growing for Market podcast is brought to you by BCS America. On our farm, we've had our BCS two-wheel tractor for over a decade, and with no belts to slip, its all-gear-driven construction is still going strong. Though we originally got it for rototilling, we kept it even when we went mostly no-till because it can do so many other things around the farm. From snow blowing, to making raised beds with the rotary plow, to chipping wood, it can do just about anything you might need on a farm with the right attachment. Need to shred a cover crop? A BCS flail mower will make quick work of even the most vigorous cover crop and chop it up so it breaks down quickly. Want to stir in compost or amendments without inverting soil layers? A power harrow turns your BCS into a precise tilthing machine with depth control so you don't mix deeper than you want to. With so many attachments to choose from, it truly is the Swiss Army knife of farm implements. It's why, instead of saying two-wheel tractor, so many people just say BCS. Tractors and attachments are on sale through the end of the year. Visit bcsamerica.com to find sale pricing and your nearest dealer.
Hey, it's Lindsay from Grown By. There are a lot of farm sales platforms out there, but there's only one that's cooperatively owned by farmers, and that's Grown By, your all-in-one solution to simplify farm sales. I'm proud and excited to share 2 new features now available on top of the tools you already know and love. Number 1, our customizable CSA box builder. It allows your customers to simply say what they'd like in their share, and Grown By matches their preferences with your weekly harvest. Number 2, our new wholesale-only marketplace. Developed with the Culinary Institute of America, it makes your life easier with a dedicated shop for your wholesale customers. No more texting those chefs. Combining retail and wholesale inventories and records. And, drumroll, automatic payments on due dates. No more chasing down late payments. These new features sit alongside our popular online sales and traditional subscription CSA tools, making it easier than ever to manage your farm's business. As you start to get ready for next season, we'd love to hear from you and see if our cooperative can be a partner in growing your farm. Visit us at grownby.com. That's GROWNBY.com.
And now, back to the show.
What was the next slide that you want to talk about on the Instagram in our minds?
Sure. Let's talk about the spinach one because you brought that up. So instead of annual spinach that you have to replant every year, consider growing spinach vine. Hubblitzia tamnoides is the Latin name. And it's very cold tolerant, leafy green, hardy down to USDA zone 3. So one of the most cold hardy perennial vegetables you can find. And it loves growing in full shade or part shade, which is really nice. I grow it under my fruit trees to kind of save space. And I also grow some under like a weeping willow tree in our front yard, and it loves it. The leaves taste very similar to spinach. They're not as thick, but they've kind of got these long heart-shaped leaves, and you can harvest them. Well, you can harvest the young shoots, actually. The tiny shoots, when they're just coming up in late winter, are like hot pink sometimes, or kind of purplish. They're really cute. And you could eat those raw or eat them kind of like a mini asparagus. And then once it warms up, the plant starts growing its vines. And I wouldn't say it's a super vigorous plant. Like, it's not super fast growing and it doesn't get huge, but it will kind of clamber over things. And you can pick the leaves up until it kind of starts flowering and getting hot. Then they start getting a bit bitter. But like for an early season green, it's really tasty. And it's nice. You can grow it in kind of a marginal area of your yard or farm that's not really sunny. And spinach vine can live for like 50 years. So it's a great investment for your time.
It's amazing. And then the kale, because I feel like kale had a really hot moment and it's kind of simmering down, but still people really love kale. They're like still really into like the kale salads. So there still is a kale vibe. So what is the perennial option for the traditional kale?
Okay, so the variety of perennial kale that I grow is called Homesteader's Kaleidoscopic Perennial Kale Grex. It's a mouthful. It's bred by Chris Homanix in the US. I believe he's in Oregon mostly. It's an amazing mix. He put together a bunch of perennial kale varieties and a bunch of different brassicas. I think there's even like Brussels sprouts in its lineage and just really diverse genetics. And then he let those all flower and cross together, and then has been selecting the plants to be very perennial and to have a more upright growth habit, I believe. And it's an incredible mix. There's a lot of diversity of leaf shapes and sizes and textures and colors. There's some plants that are really beautiful, variegated with white and hot pink and lavender, and they're just a joy to grow. Really, I found them to be very cold hardy. I think it's rated to about zone 6 or 7. And I've even had a friend who grew them in zone 2/3, and the plants did die back to the ground in the winter, but they regrew from the roots, which I thought was amazing. But that kale can live for, I think, over 7 years. I've been growing my plants for about 7, and they're still going strong. They will flower every year, starting in their second year, and they'll make seed, but they don't die back like regular kale. After that, they'll just keep growing. The flowering does seem to take a lot of energy from them. So if you don't want seeds or flowers, you can cut the flowers off or cut off the little broccolinis, the buds, and just eat at that stage. They're so good. And you'll probably get more leaf production that way. But the other cool thing about this kale is you can propagate it by cuttings. So the stem will start getting woody and thick, and you can just chop those up into sections a few inches long and just stab them in the ground or stab them in pots pretty much any time of year, just like keep them watered. And I've had very good success with reliable rooting of the cuttings. So it's a nice way you can propagate your favorite plants, share them with friends. I've been propagating one that's especially pink, and yeah, it's one of my favorites.
That's the beauty of growing your own food, right? Is that you get a chance to really specialize on colors and palettes and flavors and, varieties. It makes it really special and unique and interesting instead of just having the same bland color palette that you get at the grocery store. That is excellent point. And then I'm looking at the post now. You also have leeks. Can you talk about the leeks?
Yeah. Okay. So instead of growing regular leeks, you could consider growing Delft perpetual leek is the variety that I featured in the post. But there are a few other perennial leek varieties as well. But the Delft perpetual was bred by Frank Morton of Wild Garden Seeds, also in Oregon, I believe. It's amazing plant breeders down there, and was selected out of the Delft variety. And it's specifically selected to regrow from the roots after cutting. So instead of pulling out the leek, you cut it kind of at the soil line or just basically right above where the roots come out. And after a few weeks, just wait patiently, and the plant makes kind of these little mini garlic looking bulbs under the soil, and those will regrow into new leeks to replace the one that you just harvested. And they take a few weeks to get growing, and usually you get 1 to maybe 4 baby leeks per leek you cut. But it's a really tasty leek. It can get very large if you give it enough compost, but it still stays really tender. And they will even multiply from the base if you let the plant flower and go to seed. So you can kind of get 2 crops. You can get a seed crop and then a leek crop the following year.
Do you have onions as well?
Yeah, potato onions is a perennial onion I'm really excited about. They're kind of similar to shallots, but basically, the first year you grow them from seed, and they'll usually only grow 1 onion. And sometimes they grow really huge. I've been impressed. And then you can either leave those in the ground over winter if you're above zone 4, so 4 or higher, or you can store the potato onions indoors over the winter and replant in spring. And I should say they're called potato onions because of their excellent storage ability. They can store indoors just at room temperature, like in a cardboard box or a paper bag for over a year, and they'll still stay rock hard. They don't sprout. It's amazing. So great homesteader variety, or anyone who loves cooking with onions. So once the onions have overwintered outside or in your house and you planted them out in the spring, each onion will multiply into a little nest of 5 to 10 more onions. And you harvest them, I think whenever you'd harvest regular onions, kind of around here, it's usually August when the tops flop over. And you eat the big ones and you save the small ones for replanting. And that's because usually the smaller onions multiply into fewer larger onions in the following year. But if you replant the big ones, they multiply into more tiny onions, which is annoying to cook with and peel. So they're a really fun variety though. Yeah.
I really love that savory element of like the leeks, which I feel like are so underutilized, but they're so delicious and fragrant and just powerfully healthy for you as well. And then the onions, which people are more familiar with, but I feel like people still don't cook with enough onions. We use a lot of onions in our house. And then we also have celery. I feel like we're like heading towards Thanksgiving, Christmas all over again.
That's awesome. Well, or yeah, just wintertime too. We make so many soups and stocks at our house over the winter. So many of these things are great for that, which is maybe why I like them. But yeah, okay. So the perennial celery that I featured is a Korean variety called Sambody Korean celery. And it is from Uleungdo Island, which is just off of Korea. And I don't think it actually has a history of being eaten by humans that much there. I think it's mostly fed to livestock. Maybe I think it has been eaten at some points over time. But it's a delicious celery substitute. The stalks don't get as thick as regular celery, not nearly as thick, but they make a lot of leaves. And so I when I'm looking for that celery flavor in a dish or parsley, soups and stocks, I will just pick a bunch of leaves and stalks and just chop everything up and throw them in. And it's got a really nice aromatic celery flavor. It's stronger than celery, I would say, but you can still eat it raw. Like it's not crazy strong. And I would say it's less strong than lovage, if anyone's familiar with the herb lovage. Yeah, me too. Yeah, amazing perennial.
So good, so good. Tasty, tasty.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd say the Sambody Korean celery is a little bit more mild than lovage, but it's also very cold hardy. You can harvest it, like you can go out in the winter and dig under the snow to harvest like fresh leaves and they'll still be good. It holds really well throughout the winter and you can pick it pretty much year round. It does slow down once it gets really, really cold, so it's not growing super fast, but you can pretty much harvest it year round. It's incredible.
That is incredible. And then I have swamp lettuce, which I've never heard of. Could you run us through that?
Or is that the sweet lettuce?
Yeah, the sweet lettuce.
Yeah.
So swap the swamp lettuce for sweet lettuce?
Yeah, okay. This one's really interesting. So sweet lettuce, the Latin name is Riccardia picroides, and I believe it's native to the Mediterranean. And it's a low-growing plant that makes smallish, but very, very sweet leaves. I don't know what is in it that makes it taste so sweet, but even in the middle of summer, when it's like blazing hot, the leaves never turn bitter. They always have this really nice, sweet quality to them. And you can eat the flowers too. They look kind of like dandelions. They're yellow and cheerful and very cute. Pollinators love them. But the really crazy thing about this variety is slugs don't seem to eat it at all. Whereas they love regular lettuce. If you're in a slug-prone garden, it can be a challenge to grow lettuce. But even like the tiny seedlings, the slugs don't seem to eat it. So I'm wondering if it's the same compound that makes it taste sweet that the slugs don't like. I don't know. But you could eat a whole bowl of this sweet lettuce and it would be delicious. Definitely smaller though. So I was thinking for market gardeners, you might want to have it as an addition to a salad mix and have some more bulky leafy greens mixed in there, but I think it could make a very fun addition.
And I think that's an excellent point that you bring up, especially in the States. I can't speak to Canada, but in the States, we are sugaraholics. And so, myself included. And so the thing is that we're always I always want that little sweet, little sweet. I'm like, oh, especially in the wintertime, in the fall, winter. And so this is a great opportunity to kind of engage in that sweet tooth, that sweet taste, but not have the negative outcomes of the sugar. So this would be
Totally.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't even played around much with like what salad dressings match it best or help to bring out that flavor, but that would be very fun to play with.
And then it's also a great thing for growing is sometimes you're growing greens and you're like, oh, it looks so delicious, but it's kind of turned that tipping point and it's gone to the bitter and you're like, oh no, it's bitter. And it's a big shocker and very sad and disappointing. So it's nice to know that it's just sweet throughout.
Totally. Yeah. I know. And again, like as climate gets so weird and our summers are getting hotter up here, certainly we've had a few like heat dome events that really stresses out the plants. So I think the more diversity people can grow and a focus on like leafy greens and stuff that can survive in those extremes, I think the better, just so there's more options.
That's an excellent point because here in Ohio, yesterday it was 60 degrees, which was shocking. I was like, oh my gosh, it's a spring, beautiful day. And then today it's 22 degrees with a
Wow.
-4 with the wind chill.
That's a
In
big
one
swing.
day. It's a big swing.
That's so hard for plants and all the creatures living outside.
Yeah. Sad. That is sad. But the uplifting and happy thing is that people can purchase perennial seeds, which helps a lot with having the hardiness and the robustness to make it through these huge fluctuations.
I think they could definitely help. Yeah. And a lot of the perennials are in like different families than veggies that most people are already growing. I mean, some are the same. So like the leek, the Delft perpetual leek is the same species, the kale is the same species, but like the spinach vine, like most people aren't growing anything of that species or even genus in their gardens. And the sweet lettuce too, like there's lots of different things. So I think that added genetic diversity just can really help.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely makes a big difference to help for that. So we've talked about the climate. We've talked about your fabulous Instagram. We've talked about cold stratification, which is very important during this winter cool season. I would like to talk a little bit about the nutrients and the flavor. So can you run us through the nutrient differences or just, and it doesn't have to be like scientific. We can just go with our bodies, right? How do you feel when you're eating these fabulous vegetables?
Well, the cool thing is there actually is a little bit of preliminary research on the nutrition in perennial vegetables. Yeah, which is super cool. So a paper came out a few years ago, I believe by Eric Toensmeyer and al., and it looked at the nutrient profiles of a bunch of different perennial vegetables. But basically the gist of it is in many cases, perennial vegetables were higher in certain nutrients than their annual counterparts. And especially in some nutrients that most of the population in North America, at least, are deficient in. So perennial vegetables could help in addressing a lot of common nutrient deficiencies, which is pretty amazing. And I don't know if there's any research as to specifically why they're higher in nutrients, but I think the general theory is that a lot of these plants are able to grow larger root systems over multiple years than annuals or biennials. And so they're able to scavenge more nutrients in the soil. So I think that's probably why. But I thought that was pretty cool. And yeah, then in terms of flavor, definitely there's a lot of perennial vegetables out there that taste kind of strong or kind of different than veggies we're used to. You know, like lettuce has been bred to basically not taste like much in most cases, like be very mild. And I love that about lettuce. You know, it's very versatile, but a lot of veggies can be quite strong. Like we talked about lovage, it can be delicious, but you have to know how to use it. You're probably not going to eat like a whole bowl of lovage salad. That would be quite strong. But there are lots of varieties that are pretty comparable to other veggies we love, like the perennial kale or the 9-star broccoli. Kind of tastes like a broccoli, cauliflower flavor. But what I love is the weirdos, the things that are more uncommon, like skirret. Like carrot is kind of similar, but it really is its own thing. And I just love getting to experience these new flavors and textures and experimenting with cooking them in the kitchen and figuring out like, well, what preparation makes them shine. I just find that so, so fun.
I agree. And I think that, people are always looking for a little bit of excitement and newness in their life. And so perennial vegetables definitely are an opportunity to experience that, to experience different flavors, stronger flavors, different textures than we may be used to. And I love the idea that you're saying about the nutrients, because I feel as if a lot of people are really focusing in on their health and their own wellness, right? And centering themselves and valuing themselves and really focusing in on the key things that they can do to make their lives easier, which is to have a healthier life and be healthier. And so perennial vegetables are an awesome opportunity for people to bring in that health and that wellness and food knowledge, right? That can make them feel better every single day. And I love about the nutrients because I feel like I'm always hungry.
Me too.
Anything that can bring me more nutrients so I'm fuller, longer, and less hangry, the better, for sure.
Absolutely. And then, yeah, if you're growing these things in your own garden too, like you get all the benefits of being outside in nature and the fresh air, like so many health benefits. But yeah, I think a lot of these varieties, some of the more weird ones, chefs are starting to be interested in too. And, like chefs in more experimental restaurants maybe can kind of pave the way to, well, yeah, they're experimenting with how best to prepare these varieties. And then they can kind of be at the head of these food trends. And then eventually they make their way to the more general population, which is, I think, exciting too.
And the Pantone color of the year is white. So skirret is right in there.
That is true. I never thought of that.
Yes.
Oh, it's so funny.
I love when I see on the internet, mostly Instagram, where they have the vegetable, maybe cabbage, and they're like, grow your cabbage look. And then they have lots of varieties of green. And I love that.
Oh my gosh, I should try to make one of those for skirret. That would be so fun.
Color of the year, white.
I love it.
And
Okay,
the
keep an
onions,
eye
of
out.
course. Onions, leeks, part of the leeks, we're on a roll.
Totally.
Yes.
I love it.
So focusing on market gardeners, like you spoke about, can you talk a little bit about the soil and the ecology of growing perennials and how it is beneficial to your soil and the ecology of your whole farm, your homestead, your micro farm?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the main benefit is that with growing perennials, you are not disturbing the soil and tilling every year in order to prep the beds for planting things the following year. So usually you're only doing that once. And yeah, I mean, no-till has become really popular for the ecological benefits, soil health benefits, carbon, and that kind of thing. So it's kind of in that same vein. And when folks are planting perennial vegetables for the first time, I really try to emphasize the importance of soil prep because you really do get one chance, unless you're digging up your plants and fixing the soil and replanting it. But I really recommend that people focus on addressing compaction in their soil. So doing a really deep, just kind of fluff with a garden fork or a broad fork, tilling in or digging in amendments if your soil needs it, adding lots of compost, just trying to do a really nice job because you're not going to be able to till in or dig in amendments after that. You can add, this is what I do, I add compost on top, usually every year, just a couple inches or even less if I don't have enough compost. But yeah, you really want to try to do a nice job the first time around. And yeah, is there anything else specific you wanted to know about the
Yeah,
soil?
no, I think that's an awesome point. Like you're saying, make sure that you have everything kind of set because the beauty of this is that it's coming back year after year. And so you just kind of want to add a little bit to it each year. Like you said, soil, compost, little amendments. But yeah, I agree with you. Definitely getting that great foundation. You want to, it's like building a house. We have I don't know if you have Amish where you are, but we have Amish in Ohio. And so they're really great builders. And so they really put a firm foundation down and then they build beautiful, stunning houses. And so as an Ohioan, I'm like, yeah, you want a good foundation. You don't want a sad little house. And then you're building the house and then, the wind comes and
Gosh.
blows you down.
Yeah.
It's like the three little pigs. So yeah, definitely. You want to focus on having that good foundation. That's very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like
Yeah.
soil health is so crucial to getting the nutrients that you want out of your plants, for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, and something I just remembered about is the mycorrhizal associations with the roots of a lot of species. Like the longer the plant is in the ground, the longer the time period for those relationships to take place between the plant and the fungi in the soil. And the fungi, in a lot of cases, are what is doing that nutrient scavenging, So the fungi can reach out way farther than the plant roots to get food for the plant. And so there's definitely nutritional and soil health benefits to that as well.
How did you know? I reached out to my mushroom guy today.
Oh, amazing.
To get my mushroom compost. I was like, hi, it's me again.
Amazing.
I'm trying to get it all done before, the warm weather comes and, everybody else gets the mushroom compost. So definitely it's so important.
I'm crazy about compost here too. It's hard to get good stuff that's not crazy expensive, and you got to be early.
Really, 100%.
Yeah.
It's competitive out there.
Mm-hmm.
And now let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. It's with their generous support that we can bring you the podcast for free.
A well-built high tunnel is one of the smartest investments a small farm can make. It protects your crops, extends your season, and keeps income rolling in even through winter. Nifty Hoops builds complete Gothic high tunnels that are easy to install and built to last. Their easy, bolt-together construction makes setup straightforward and efficient, whether it's a small backyard hoop house or a dozen large production-scale high tunnels. Especially through their community build option, where professional builders work alongside your crew, family, or neighbors to build each structure, usually in a single day. Most growers go with Nifty's full setup: steel-framed end walls, roll-up sides, baseboards, double plastic with inflation, automated vents, and real doors, all priced to make the best choice the easy one. Nifty is a small crew out of Michigan using U.S. steel and working hands-on with growers across the country. They'll help evaluate your site, handle NRCS paperwork, and if they're building with you, they'll even float your cost share until after the build. Visit niftyhoops.com to learn more. Farm more seasons. Grow more food. Nifty Hoops. Seven Springs Farm Supply has been the market gardener's supply company for over 30 years. Their catalog includes a complete selection of organic fertilizers, pest and disease controls, growing mixes, and cover crop seed. Their experienced team is ready to help you problem solve and find the right solution for your farm and your goals. Seven Springs is committed to providing growers with superior products and service because they understand that their success depends on your success. Request a free paper catalog and learn more at sevenspringsfarmsupply.com. Seven Springs cooperative purchase deliveries are coming up. Visit their site to check dates and locations.
And now, back to the show.
So, do you store a lot of the vegetables? You talked a little bit about storing vegetables with the onions. With the perennials, is that something that is more common?
Yeah, okay, good question. There are a bunch. So it depends on your growing zone more so. So for things that are more marginal, like maybe your climate's a little bit too cold for the plant to survive outdoors over winter, like there's a bunch of Peruvian root vegetables like oca or yacon or even dahlias. People would be more familiar with dahlias, which are actually technically edible. That's another story. So people are digging up their dahlias, storing them inside over the winter, because in most zones they'd freeze and die over the winter and you'd lose them. My preference is to grow things that are hardy enough in my zone that I don't need to mess around with doing that. My partner and I and my friend, we were trimming and cleaning our dahlia tubers to put into storage yesterday. We were so late on it and we're like, oh no, this is going to take hours longer. So anyway, I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible. We're all busy. So ideally you can leave these veggies just in the ground over winter. So skirret, for example, it's hardy to zone 3 or 4. Just leave it in the ground all winter. You can dig it up and harvest it whenever the ground isn't like frozen solid, or you can even put a bunch of straw on top of it to keep it from freezing and then harvest pretty much all year round if your climate's mild enough. But yeah, that is my preferred method of overwintering things. The less work, the better. Because there's always like prep and nuance and technique to overwintering stuff inside. You have to keep the humidity right and you have to watch out for mold and that kind of thing. So I'd rather just not mess with that if it's possible.
Now, getting to the very important topic of ordering seeds, can you walk our audience through the process? Say they're in Minnesota, which is close to Canada, but it's not Canada. And so therefore, what would you do?
Yeah, okay. Well, if folks wanted to order from my website, I'm based in Canada. So US citizens will require a small lot seed import permit. It's free to apply for. I have instructions on my website. So it's free, but it does require a bunch of paperwork. And then you send your permit to me and shipping labels. And then I'll make sure on my end everything's tickety-boo. And then your package will get sent to an inspection station. There's several in the US. And then they'll inspect the seeds and then forward the package onto you. So it's quite a process. There are some other ways to do it that I played around with, but this is really the best method for cost and time and stuff like that. I ship internationally as well, and small import permits aren't required, and then Canada's really easy. There are also a bunch of other amazing nurseries and seed companies in the US, so definitely try to find one close to you. I'm a huge supporter of finding a seed company that's as close to you as possible and supporting them. Just the more people we have having these companies, the better.
Absolutely. And I love the process of it going to an inspection station. It seemed kind of like, I love James Bond. It's like, oh, this is like James Bond. You're like crossing borders and you're stopping at the border crosser, which is like the inspection place. And then it goes on from there. So I thought that was like fun and kind of intriguing. I was like, oh, it's like a little seed adventure. Good story. Yes. You can tell a friend.
Definitely an extra adventure for the seeds. I love your positive outlook.
And we were talking before about your trialing process. Can you explain with our audience about that?
Yeah. Okay. I'm so excited about this. It's been something I wanted to do for a couple years, but I'm finally going to launch a participatory research trial for farmers and market gardeners to trial perennial vegetables on their farms. And I mean, these varieties, they're becoming really popular with gardeners. Like, we know they work in a garden setting, but I'm wondering, are these economically viable to be growing on farms? Like, can you make money off of them? And also, I'm just looking to just grow the body of knowledge around growing these perennial varieties, like what climates do they do best in? What pests and diseases are growers facing? How are you marketing them? Because some of them are definitely a little bit weird, like the perpetual leeks. People probably like to buy leeks with the roots on, or they're used to that at least. And you'd be buying leeks that are cut off at the end. Like, will people buy them? So I'm starting a participatory trial. I'm asking folks to choose maybe 1 to 3 perennial vegetable varieties to grow out in the 2026 season. And then I'll put together a survey, or we can have like a conversational interview just to get your feedback about these varieties. And then for folks who complete that, I'll send them a $50 gift card for my website so they can buy more seeds. And then I'm hoping to look for more funding as well. I don't know from where, but if anyone wants to fund this project, please get in touch. But I'd love to be able to compensate farmers for their time and like their risk participating in this trial. Just risk more as like, yeah, are they going to be able to sell all these leeks that they planted? So yeah, that's my thought for now. I'm working on the blog post now. It'll be on my website, cicadaseeds.ca, and under the blog tab. So if you're interested, I would love to hear from you. I'll have a form for folks to fill out.
That's amazing. I love a good seed trial because I feel like all the interesting, fun seeds that we all enjoy now, a lot of them started from like a seed trial of some sort. They have like the Kernza wheat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right?
Very cool. Yeah. And it's so important to get feedback, and specifically farmer feedback on this stuff. Like, it's just so valuable. And yeah, hearing what people actually want, like, and what works, that's definitely the direction we should be going in.
Absolutely. And I feel like this Perennial Seeds with Cicada Seeds really is solving a problem that is ongoing in all of our lives, where people want to have good food, tasty food, nutritious food, but at a reasonable cost that they can afford. And so many people have been saying in general, oh my gosh, food costs are just skyrocketing. They're going through the roof, right? And people feel very vulnerable and sad and upset about it. But this is a great way to get some autonomy, get some control, get some happiness and joy by growing your own food and doing the perennial way, which is easy and breezy and fun. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think they shine for so many reasons. And yeah, I think it's really great timing for people and our planet right now. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, you're doing such amazing work. And I'm so incredibly thankful. I really am very, very thankful to have you on to talk about perennial seeds, because it really can make a huge difference in people's lives and bring them some happiness and joy. And they're so easy to grow. And everyone is always looking for that. They're like, I need something that I can just grow easily. And perennial seeds are totally the answer. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day and to chat with me and the audience and sharing your vast wealth of knowledge. I'm very thankful.
Thank you so much, April. This was really fun. I hope we get to chat again in the future one day.
Yes, we will. Well, thank you guys again for joining us. And we hope you have a fabulous, wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Growing for Market podcast. If you've been enjoying the show, please consider giving us a follow and a rating or review. It really helps others to find the podcast. For more tips and tricks from farmer to farmer, check out our magazine at growingformarket.com. Whether you're a commercial grower or just want to grow like one, subscribe to Growing for Market magazine for the nitty-gritty of growing, marketing, and the business of market farming. We publish 10 issues per year with articles written by experienced farmers on topics ranging from tools and techniques to farm business, operations, and marketing. If you've been listening to the Growing for Market podcast and haven't yet checked out Growing for Market magazine, we've made a change so you can try the magazine for free. We've added a free month to the beginning of all first-time subscriptions. Try out the digital or paper magazine, and if it's not for you, cancel within 28 days, and you'll never get billed. With digital subscriptions starting at just $39 per year. You'll get a year of the magazine plus 150 back issues from the last 15 years. Head over to Growing for Market and subscribe today to benefit from over 3 decades of writing by farmers for farmers and Growing for Market magazine.